Hi everyone, welcome to Module 10 of 7741. I want to give you a short lecture. I haven't done that much this summer because research demonstrates that kids don't often look at teachers' video lessons, so I didn't want to model that for you. But I do want to give you a very brief lecture here on affinity spaces, since I'm asking you to consider affinity spaces, and sometimes this is a tough topic for students to understand what I mean. So, an affinity space is a common endeavor for which at least many people in the space have a passion. They're not segregated by age, newbies, masters, everyone else share a common space. So, generally, this is a hub for people who have a passion for something in general. It could be a passion for backpacking, it could be a passion for coffee. Anything that all of the users in the space enjoy and share a passion for, that is an affinity space. So there are many examples of affinity spaces that are digital, but I just want to underscore that an affinity space does not have to be a digital space. It can be a real world space. You may know someone young who enjoys Minecraft. Minecraft is an example of an affinity space. It's a place where where children go and talk about video games. They play video games there. Another affinity space is World of Warcraft, very similar. It's an online site, it's free. Users go in there and play games and have common missions. There's Neverwinter, which is another digital site. Those who enjoy this is an MMORPG, which means it's a free massive player action game, has videos in it, lots of different things that users can enjoy, including a forum where they can talk to each other. Nerd Fighters is another one.
Hey guys, I'm Carly
This
Kloss.
is a video that I'll actually give you access to, but this was started by John Green and a friend of his. And John Green, you may know, is an author. And being a nerd fighter means that you have a certain vocabulary and certain things that you do to call yourself a nerd fighter. Fanfiction.net is another digital site where people who write and enjoy fan fiction can go. Fan fiction, if you don't know what that is, it generally is written with the same characters or the setting of common TV shows, cartoons, manga, books, movies, all different kinds of things. So you pick your genre and then you go to it and you can either write some or read some. Magic the Gathering is another digital space here where people come to play this game. It also has cards that go along with it. I've seen the cards in Target. The people who love this like to get together once a year and they have an actual gathering. Here's a schedule, there's resources, there's events where they play the game. Star Wars The Old Republic, very similar. People who love Star Wars come into this site, they can play the game. They talk about all things Star Wars. They can buy things. There's a community site here where they go to talk about their space that they love. So affinity spaces have particular characteristics, and there's a particular type of academic language that we use to talk about them. So these are sort of boiled down into a nutshell for you. The content, this is the stuff that the users of the affinity space care about. The content of a Star Wars affinity space is going to be all things Star Wars. The generator, this is the person who creates the content, and a generator generally isn't just the person who thought of the original idea, but it's usually all of the users. So everyone can go in and create some content in the space. A portal is a way into the Affinity space. Again, this can be a digital website, or it might be a coffee shop. But it's some place where users go to interact with the content. So when you're thinking about the knowledge in an affinity space, you think about whether the affinity space encourages people to gain personal knowledge and then contribute to collective knowledge. In other words, if you know how to beat the boss in a video game, is there a space where you can go and tell other users this is how you beat it? And then you contribute to the collective information about that particular game. Dispersed knowledge is knowledge that's acquired from somewhere outside the affinity space. It might be how you know what you know, but you can't really put your finger on it. For instance, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you just know that Snape is bad, or that the wizards all get together at or students at Hogwarts, and that Hogwarts is a special place that you have to ride a train to. These are bits of information that you have from just sort of hanging around in the affinity space. And then there's the tacit knowledge, which members know, but they can't really explain to you. Like, I could try to explain to you what a muggle is, but unless you've read the books and you fully understand, then you probably won't get it. There's status. You have to think about, how do members acquire status within the space? Do they play? Do they comment? If it is a YouTube affinity space, for instance, if you post a comment, does that give you more status? Is there a conflict in the space that users must help to overcome or solve, such as a princess to rescue, a boss to beat? Uh, is there leadership within the affinity space? Are there bosses? Are there designers, leaders, enablers? Does someone have more status because they've played more often? They have more knowledge of the affinity space. And then participation. How much do members participate? Do they just hang out? And these are actual academic terms by a researcher named Ito. And she says, are they just hanging out, which means sort of hanging around on the edges, just surfing through? Are they messing around, where they're coming in and, taking an active role? Or are they geeking out, where they're fully immersed into the affinity space? So, having heard that, think for a minute about how you might define an affinity space to someone. Are you a member of any affinity spaces, or do you know someone who's a member? And then think about affinity spaces that you've maybe heard about, read about, or seen, or visited, and what are their characteristics? So just think through some of those ideas for a minute. And now I want to move on to show you quickly some sample videos. You are going to create a video to explain an affinity space. And again, this doesn't have to be a digital space. I'll post links to these in the document for this module, but I'm just going to play quickly one video here. This is from a former student. This is backpacking as an affinity space.
Backpacking as an activity sounds relatively simple at first blush. Just fill up a backpack with the essentials and hit the trail, right? But then the minutiae start piling up. A stove to cook food, a filter to purify water, shelter to protect from the elements. The list goes on until, at some point, you even need a bigger backpack to carry all that stuff. The biggest barriers to entry for new hikers are the acquisition of equipment and the development of the skills necessary to thrive in the woods, which can be a long, intensive, and expensive process for the uninitiated. There are two primary forums where hikers meet to indulge in their hobby. One is in preparatory spaces, and the other is in participatory spaces. In the preparatory spaces, hikers and backpackers develop their knowledge, equipment, and fitness.
Okay, so you have a sense of what that is talking to you about. And again, I'll post this link in the module so you can look at it more closely. So that is a non-digital space that is an affinity space. Here's another video from a past student about Guitar Hero as an affinity space.
Guitar Hero is a video game where the player attempts to play songs in a little plastic guitar to simulate playing a real guitar. The original idea was that you were a lead guitarist in an up-and-coming band, so you would travel to different venues with different songs. If you performed well enough by hitting the correct sequence of notes, you and your band would be sent to play in a larger venue for more money. The ultimate goal would be to gain international stardom, thus you would become the Guitar Hero.
Okay, so you get the gist of that. So your job is going to be to create your own affinity space video about something for which you have a passion. So I will now allow you to read through the assignment.